Hello everyone, this is Noah with Positive Notes. Hope you guys are doing well in this time, and I figured that I would take some time and make some videos for you all so that you could, if you're bored and want to work on those piano skills, then you can do so. So today we are going to learn a little bit about chords and about playing with two different hands, and then we'll work on a very commonly known piano piece, Heart and Soul. So hope you stick around and let's get to the video. All right, so up to this point we have learned different ideas about tone and pitch and what that means. So here's our middle C. And if we go all the way up on the major scale, going whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, then we can play our C major scale, or we can do the minor scales. So whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So we have different types of scales. We have figured out different rhythms. So if we're in a 4/4 rhythm, I'll tap one out. Those are quarter notes, or we could play half notes. And there's all sorts of different types of notes that we can learn on the piano and figure out. But today what we're going to try to accomplish is learning how to play two or more notes at the same time with either one hand or two separate hands. So if I start on middle C here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a major third. Now this will be a sound that you all should be familiar with because it shows up all the time in music and it's a very pleasant sound. So here's what a major third sounds like. Now part of the reason why we call it a major third is because I'm using C and E, two notes which are in the C major scale. And thus it is a major third. If I wanted to play a minor third, then it would sound, more dark and with that typical minor sound. Now, when we're starting off in piano, it's often very helpful to play the root note with your thumb. So if I'm playing a third and I'm playing a C and an E, what I like to do is I start with my thumb here on the C, and then you can use really your second or third finger, whichever is more comfortable, but typically your third to play that E. And this is kind of a jump into fingering too. So a lot of, piano is not just playing the notes right and the rhythm right, but it's also getting the right fingers. So if we have our thumb and our third finger, we're going to play that third. Now sometimes in addition to practicing your scales, like going up like this, sometimes it's a useful exercise if you want to practice your intervals, just going up and down with thirds. So we've got this third, and then we can move up to this one, which happens to be minor. This one, which is another minor. And that one's major. So you can, play around with that. So that's the gist of basically how to play two notes at once. The real key is to make sure that your fingering is good though, because sometimes you will have pieces that you don't want to play a third with like your thumb and your pinky like this, which is what a lot of beginner pianists tend to do. So what I kind of like to do is definitely gauge how big your hand is. So I can easily reach an octave, which is what we talked about is the distance between 8 notes, or one note, what's called up an octave. So this is my octave, but I would never try to reach an octave with like, a 2 and a 5, which I can kind of do. But it's a lot, you want to make sure that the chords that you were playing are comfortable with your fingers. So now we're going to talk about playing with two hands at once. And this is not that difficult. Really, you want to think of your left hand as just an inverted version of your right hand, right? So if this is my thumb here, this is my thumb here. And so if I'm playing like 2 C major, what this is called is a triad, so 1, 3, and 5. If I'm playing 2 C major triads, the right hand will be playing a C with my thumb, but my left thumb will be playing a G. And I would never try to do, I would never try to put my thumb here on the C in my left hand and invert it like that, because that's very silly fingering. So it's all about figuring out what is good for your hands and trying to adapt that to the piece. And oftentimes when you're starting out, different pieces will have fingering for you, so that's very helpful. So here we have Heart and Soul, which is a very commonly known and played piano tune when you're starting out. And we're just going to look at how we might go about playing the right hand or the melody, and then how we might go about playing the left hand. So the next time you're at a gathering and you have someone else who has basic piano skills, you can have them hop on the left hand or the right hand and you can play the other one. So let's start with the right hand. So the right hand, and when I mean the right hand, I mean usually the treble clef here, because that's kind of the top voice, which is what we're going to play with our right hand. So we're going to start here on that note, if you remember from the first video, is a C. Treble clef, we're on the third space, so we're going to play a C. Now, on the keyboard, I know that I'm going to go down eventually to an A. So here, instead of starting with my first finger, I'm going to start with my third. So I'm just going to play it for you here, and then I will show you some of the fingering. So we start just like this. That holds. So that looks like that. So now on down here, the way that we're going to play this is you want to have your entire right hand kind of cover the notes that you're going to play. So we know that we're going to play these 4 notes. So rather than have my right hand start with my thumb on C, because we're going down A, I'm going to start with my third finger on C, because that means my second finger will play the B, my first finger will play the A, so it should be nice and comfortable. So let's see how that works out. And look at that. It's very easy with this fingering configuration for me to just to go down like that to the B, A, B, C, D. Just like that. So now the next part, we've got and we just got to right there, and that part pretty much repeats, so we'll stop there. So now looking down here, how I play that, it's all about inverting your hand so that you're playing in a comfortable position. So if I'm starting here, we already went through this. So now my right pinky is poised to play the E, which comes next. But then I have to go up again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the first E with my pinky, and then I'm going to go over to my middle finger. So all I did there was I just inverted that E over to my middle finger, and that way I was able to play the next part more comfortably. Because I just have to go down to D and C. So it's all about figuring out what is the most comfortable. And then we go up to here. So then I can go down to the C. And now I could go down here like that, or I could go. So it's all about figuring out what your hand can easily play. So now we're going to move on to the left hand. And a really instructive part about this left hand is that, when we first did major thirds in this video, we talked about doing your thumb and your middle finger for the third. But it really depends on the piece, because I'll start by playing the sequence that we're going to do here, the chords for Heart and Soul. And you'll get a sense of which way is going to work better. So I'm gonna play two different ways and then I'll let you pause the video for a bit. And you can say which way you think will work better. So the left hand is just gonna go, and that's pretty easy, you know, fingering wise. I would, you know, the same thing, having your second finger on the C here, your fourth finger on the A, thumb on the D, and then pinky on the G, because that way you can easily hit all the notes. So here's the first way. And here's the second way. So I'll leave you a little bit of time to try to guess what that was if you want to pause the video. So what the difference was there was that in the first one, I was jumping around with my thirds because I locked in my position for the thirds. I did 1 and 3, and I was just jumping around. I was going. But for a beginner piano player, it's very easy to screw that up. And even for, you know, once you get to higher level piano, that's pretty bad fingering, because what you're inevitably gonna do when you're playing it faster is, you know, you're gonna screw up. So it's much easier if I'm covering, if my range, it's often helpful to think of, you know, your range. So if I'm going from, so I'm covering between these two notes, which is almost an octave. So the fingering that I chose to do for this was do 3-5 for the first chord, and then 1-3 for the next chord, which is very conveniently right there. I don't even have to move my hand. So I just go here, here. And then what I can do is I can do 2-4 or 4-5 or 3-5, depending on what I want. 4-5 seems to be very nice though, because I've got my 4 here and my 5 here on the D and the F. And then look at that, my 1 and 2 are right here on the G and the B. So I can very easily switch from, and there's very little room for error. So really, the secret behind playing chords on piano, it's not too difficult. It's all about trying to get the right fingering down so that you're not playing, you know, random fingerings, because a lot of people when they're starting off just try to do whatever to hit the chords. So you really want to think about either what they're telling you to do in any sort of workbooks that you have, or if they don't, then, you know, experiment around and see which fingerings will help you play the chord best for you, because everyone's hands are differently shaped and everyone can reach fingerings differently. So it's best to find what works for you. Thanks for tuning in to that video on chords and playing through Heart and Soul. If you want to play along yourself and try to figure it out, here's the one that we used today. And if you have any suggestions for more videos that we could do, or any questions, then feel free to email csa.positivenotes@gmail.com. And hope you stay safe during this time. Have a great one.